The City of Riverbank Regular City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority meeting is now in session. And there is an echo in the room. Please rise. Mitchell Owens, would you do us the honor and lead us into the flag salute?
Will everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you please remain standing?
That's all, guys.
Let us pray. Thank you, Heavenly Father Jesus, for this wonderful city that you've provided for us. Thank you for the many blessings that you bestowed upon each one of us. Heavenly Father, as we come to you in this time of the season, the time that we set aside to celebrate your wonderful birthday, we ask that you be with our city leaders, those that you put in leadership positions. We ask you be with our city staff. We ask, Heavenly Father Jesus, that you be with each person in this building tonight, that you uplift them. Grant them, Heavenly Father, the blessings that they ask upon you. We ask, Heavenly Father Jesus, that you just give our leaders the wisdom, the strength, and the ability to just lead this city as you would have them to lead it. And we will give you the praise and thanks for it all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please have a seat. Roll call, please.
Council Authority Member Janine Tucker.
Here.
Council Authority Member Leanne Jones-Cruz.
Here.
Council Authority Member Darlene Barber Martinez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chair Cal Campbell.
Here?
Mayor Chair Richard D. O'Brien.
Here. Conflict of interest. Any council authority member or staff who has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare their conflict at this time.
I don't have a direct conflict of interest, but I do need to abstain from items 3B1 through 3B4 on the consent calendar because I was not present.
And Mayor O'Brien, while there's not a conflict, I will be asking the City Council to consider adding an emergency item to the agenda this evening under new business. We had an emergency situation related to the instability of a slope by one of the city's storm drain outlets. We'd like to request some appropriation of funds to be able to repair that. So we'll be dealing with that during the new business section of the meeting.
Thank you.
And I need to abstain from voting on item 3B1 and 3B2 also. I was not here at those meetings, or for those minutes.
Get to those, please remind me. All right, presentation, starting with item 1.1, presentation to the Riverbank Cub Scout Pack 10. Okay, Angie Timponi and Leonard Alba. Good to see you again. And you, good to see you. Thank you. All right, you've been cited today, City of Riverbank, Certificate of Special Recognition. Riverbank Pack 10 Cub Scouts. The City of Riverbank appreciates and recognizes the outstanding and invaluable service to the community that Pack 10 Cub Scouts have provided since 2011. I want to congratulate both of you and commend both of you on your efforts, and you have a fine group of young men here. So with that, I'd like to present that. Who's going to take it? Okay, now we have a photo op. We have to stand there. We're going to get the boys. Relax. Okay, we're going to get... Okay, I would like to invite all the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts to come on up. Yeah, where you guys stood before.
Yep, go back to your spot.
All right. While you guys are lining up, I'd like to give you a pin for the city. And in the back, did you get one? Okay. It looks like I'm going to be shy. I've never been known as being shy before.
You must have had more to me.
Now, if I am short, I will make sure everybody gets one before you leave. Who has not gotten one? Okay, there's that one. And I'll sign it later. I'll sign it special. All right, so now what do? We have a photo op? May I join you guys? Yes, please. Can you pull that mic stand down? May I slide in the back? Thank you. I won't stand in front of you. Okay, Angie?
Okay, boys, look forward towards the camera. Forward.
Everyone smile now.
You guys can be on TV. Forward.
Everyone ready? Okay. I want to thank you guys. First, I'd also like to thank the parents for all that you do and assisting and also doing the tasks that are required, getting them to their assigned duties. I'd like to, again, thank you, and would you like to say something before? No, go ahead. No comment? No comment. Well, thank you very much. All right, guys, thank you. Good job. All right, item 1.2, update on demographic study analyzing the city of Riverbank's at-large system pursuant to California Voting Rights Act.
Mayor O'Brien and members of the City Council, as you know, during the course of the last year, we have been reviewing the impacts of the California Voters' Rights Act. And this evening we have Mr. Douglas Johnson from National Demographics Corporation to provide us an update on that process and also lay out what we will be doing in the first 6 months of 2015. So this time I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Johnson.
Thank you very much. Well, I consider what I talk about fascinating. I don't know if the Boy Scouts will, so I don't know if they want to stay for this or not. But
They want to stay for this.
oh, good. Okay, excellent. I was going to say it's a huge pack. I'm very impressed. They might make a district all by themselves. So what we're talking about tonight is the election system for the council. And when we talk about election systems, there are really 3 different systems that people should have in mind, and I'll make different references to them through this presentation. The first is what you've traditionally had, which is at large. Everyone runs against each other for however many seats are up, and if there's 2 seats open, the top 2 vote getters win. Then there's a system called from district, where candidates have to live in a certain district, but the entire city still votes for all of the seats. And then the one we'll talk about primarily this evening is called by district. This is where whoever wants to run for a certain district needs to live in that small portion of the city, and only the voters in that portion of the city vote for who represents their area. There are other options. You may hear references to ranked choice voting and all kinds of funky things. California, of course, specializes in funky things, so there are a variety, but those are all options for charter cities. And so the vast majority of California cities are general law, like Riverbank, and thus must choose from just the first 3. What's prompting this discussion statewide, certainly not only in Riverbank, is something called the California Voting Rights Act. It was written by two attorneys who have done a lot of voting rights law in the past under the Federal Voting Rights Act. They largely wrote the law, and then Governor Gray Davis signed it into law in 2002. Everything stayed pretty quiet because the first lawsuit against Modesto won in Superior Court and got the law declared, at least initially, unconstitutional. So it wasn't until 2006 when the appeals court overturned that initial ruling, put the law back in place, and that's when we started to see a lot of activity under this law. And the activity is all jurisdictions moving from the at-large system of elections to by-district elections. The law is a very interesting and complicated piece of legislation. It could have used a lot more fine-tuning before it was adopted. But really, at its heart, what it does is it makes it very easy for anyone who wants to sue a jurisdiction to sue and to force them to move from at-large elections to by-district elections. And then they get significant plaintiff's fees, or at least the attorneys do. What we've seen, I mean, I'm sure you followed years ago the Modesto case where the plaintiff's attorneys got $3 million. Madera Unified, the plaintiffs asked for 1.8. Thankfully, from the district's point of view, the judge only gave $170,000. Anaheim just settled and paid the plaintiffs $1.2 million. Palmdale, the judge, this is the only ongoing active jurisdiction that's actually fighting a challenge, and the judge has awarded plaintiffs $3.2 million, although that's suspended pending the appeal. Merced is a little bit of an outlier. They were actually sued by Maldef, not by one of these private attorneys, and Maldef settled for just $42,000. So it is looking like how much you end up paying depends on who's the lead attorney suing you in these cases. But those are only jurisdictions that end up in court. The overwhelming majority of activity we're seeing is, as this council is doing, jurisdictions getting ahead of the plaintiffs, acting before they get sued and saving 6 to 7 figures worth of money. At this point, my latest count is that 97 school districts have switched, about 25 community college districts have switched, 15 cities have switched. And to put that in context, we had less than 40 cities using by-district elections before this law took effect. So that number has gone from, I think, 39 or 38. We've now added 15. So it's gone up by 50% just under this law. And then one county, San Mateo County, used from-district elections. They were the only county not using by-district. They were sued, they settled, and they went to district elections. So this is a big statewide issue. And Riverbank's demographics fit the demographics of most places where we're seeing change or where we're seeing legal threats. Latinos are majority of the population, but non-Hispanic whites are a plurality of what we demographers call citizens of voting age. That is a number that comes from the Census Bureau, and the courts look at it as a measure of the eligible voters. The idea being that as long as you're 18 and a citizen, you're eligible to vote. People may choose not to register, may choose not to vote, but that's what the courts are focusing on in these cases. And then there's just one Latino elected in recent history to the council. One thing to note is that the law doesn't require any showing of discrimination, prejudice, anything like that. It's simply a by-the-numbers kind of legal case, which is why they get so expensive. It's experts like me that spend days in depositions and days on the stand arguing about regression analysis and margins of error. So when we get past all that and we go to the drawing of trustee areas, which is where the council has voted to go to get ahead of the curve and not end up in court, this takes time because under state law and under just good government process, it does involve community input, community hearings, and a lot of discussion about which plans make the most sense. The process really breaks down into 6 steps. One is to adopt the criteria under which the lines will be drawn. That's already done. The next is to get input and draft plans. And we're looking at having that done by January. And then public hearings, potentially community forums as well to discuss the draft plans, what works, what doesn't work. Council consideration and eventual adoption. And then the public has to vote on the plans. This is a little bit of catch for cities and why most of the action's been on school districts is that school districts can skip that vote. They can just vote, they go to the state board and get a waiver of the election and they make the change. Cities then have to put it on the ballot, and we just had this November our first city that voted down the change, Highland down in San Bernardino County. But the trick is that voting it down just gets you an even deeper legal hot water. So they are being sued, but the council's stuck because the voters have voted no, but the law is going to force them to make the change. There have been proposals to give cities the ability to bypass that election because really all it can do is get you in trouble. But those proposals have not passed yet. So we'll be looking at a vote of the public.
Before you move on to that slide, number 5, I thought we were going to 2015 for the vote.
Well, that's why I put likely on here. I wasn't sure exactly when. And that's the council's decision which election to put it on, certainly.
That means that your end date has to be sooner than later.
Yes. We do have plenty of time, though. Yeah, for 15. We're looking at, trying to think off the top of my head, but if you're looking at November 2015, the lines have to be done by May or June. So we'll get that done. And then you transition to the elections. The new districts actually take effect not all at once, but as the current council members' at-large terms finish. So the current council will continue to serve at large. One of the things that has come up in a couple of jurisdictions is if there's a vacancy or a recall or anything like that of the current council members in the current terms, that remains at large. These districts will not take effect until the next elections are held. And that obviously will be 2 in 2018 and 3 in 2020. So when we're looking at drawing lines, covered a little bit about this of the criteria. There are 2 federal laws that govern this. These are the must-do requirements. Number 1, we must have equal population. Given that we're going to go to 4 districts with an at-large mayor, that breaks down to about 5,670 people per district. You can have a little bit of variation, plus or minus 1 or 2% is fine. You might be able to go plus or minus 5% if we have an extreme case. But it has to be really close to that 5,670 people. And that is total population. The other requirement is the Federal Voting Rights Act. That really is my job to keep an eye on it with your city attorney. All the plans that we propose will be fine on that front, and we'll kind of flag that. It boils down to if you have a neighborhood that's a protected class, Latinos, African Americans, Native Americans, or Asian Americans, you need to be sure not to divide that up in a way that dilutes their electoral power. But you can also go too far. The last note at the bottom here, no racial gerrymandering. You can fall short of the voting rights requirements, and you can go too far. You can't draw lines using what the court has called the race as a predominant factor. I can show you a map on the computer that shows exactly where Latinos live in the city, but you can't take a pen and draw right around those colors. What you have to look at is neighborhoods. And both from voting rights perspective and from the way you want your lines drawn, you want to try to keep neighborhoods together to the best degree. Which brings us to the traditional criteria. And this is really where most of the discussion and, in the end, your discretion comes in. The biggest one that comes up the most is communities of interest. It's a technical word. Really, it boils down to neighborhoods. What are your neighborhoods? Where should the lines be drawn to keep them together? I can look somewhat at that, but really no one knows that better than you and the people who live in those neighborhoods. There are lots of academics who would love to achieve fame by coming up with the demographic formula to define a community of interest. But it really boils down to a neighborhood is whatever the people who live in it say it is. So that's really where a big part of the public input can come from. Then we want to follow, to the degree we can, visible natural and man-made boundaries, follow major roads, rivers, railroad tracks, things like that. That's really so that it's easy for the voters to understand where the lines are. It's a lot easier to recruit your neighbors to say, let's go out and campaign for this guy in this district and knock on doors. If you can say, well, we have to knock on all the doors between here and street Y. Than it is to say, well, we go over this block and then we go up this way and then we go over that way. We want to make this easy for the voters to get involved in the elections. For the same reason, we want the districts to be compact and contiguous. And then continuity in office is, the courts have said we can consider where the current council members live. You can't do it in a way that leads to population imbalance or any problems with the Voting Rights Act, but you can look at that and try to avoid pairing the current council members. The reason for that is the voters have elected the current council, and it should be up to the voters to decide if the current council members are deserving of another term. It shouldn't be redistricting that comes in and puts 2 or 3 council members together and says, voters, you can only have one of these people you wanted before. So it's a goal. It's not an absolute. Lots of jurisdictions, the council members live too close together to do it. But it's certainly a consideration worthy of it. I will flag, too, given that this is happening in the middle of the decade, it's even more of a reason to take this into account, because these districts will only really be used once in one election. Half of them will be used in 2018, half will be used in 2020, and then the lines will have to be redrawn in 2021 after the census data comes out. So it's even more of a, when you have a short-term plan, it's even more of a reason to not disrupt the current situation. Which leads me well into population growth. If you know there's going to be a big development where there's going to be lots of people, and you know that that's not going to happen in the rest of the city, then you can underpopulate the district that contains that area by a few percent more. You can't severely underpopulate it, and that you need to know that growth is going to take place between now and 2020. So it's unlikely that there's a big area where you're sure of that happening, but it is something that you can take into consideration. And then this doesn't play in here, but in future redistrictings, you can try to preserve the core of the existing districts. That's really because people organize, they get involved in elections, and we don't want to be redrawing the lines whole cloth every redistricting and disrupting all those networks and organizations and neighbor-to-neighbor contacts that have been in place in the last election. So it's a lot of criteria. With the traditional criteria, you can never meet all of these perfectly, especially within the population requirements. So looking at the plans is going to be all about balancing amongst these criteria. Which plan is the best balance of trying to do all of these things? A little bit more on communities of interest. The Voting Rights Act focuses on communities defined by race, ethnicity, and language. But obviously there are many, many more things that define neighborhoods. And all of them are legitimate. It could be that a neighborhood is the neighborhood around a school. It could be the neighborhood around a park. Whatever works in your local neighborhoods is what we want to figure out, and we want to try to keep those neighborhoods together as much as possible. There is one exception. Some communities of interest actually want multiple council members that are reporting to them and that are accountable to them on election day. Primarily, we run into this with senior citizen housing. The Sun Cities, places like that are rather large. It's pretty rare, but sometimes we do get a community of interest that comes in and says, here's the definition of our community. Please draw us into 2 seats. It's usually seniors that say, look, we have 99% turnout rates. Don't pack us all into 1 seat. We want to have a huge say in 2 seats. But there are other reasons for it as well. We often get this in school district trustee areas where they don't want one trustee to feel like they own a school, so they'll divide up the attendance area so that multiple trustees represent that school. So we do ask 2 questions. One is, what is your community of interest or neighborhood? And 2, do you want it kept together or do you want it divided so you have 2 representatives? When the plans come out, we'll have draft plans. They'll post to the city website and things like that. There will be the usual, PDF 8.5 by 11 maps, but obviously details can be hard to see on those. So we use a couple of tools. For anyone who's ever used Google Earth, which is actually the free download, it's different than Google Maps, but it's Google Earth. It's a free download. It's a phenomenal tool. We can provide the files that you then open up in Google Earth, and you can zoom in. This is a shot of kind of the aerial shot, so you can really see the city, and then the individual districts that are drawn will show up there. You can even go in 3D, and this is a representation of those lines going through a neighborhood, and you can see exactly which house is where. So if you can't see the details on the 8.5 by 11, we can give you Google Earth files. We also will post the maps online. So for people who don't have the Google Earth download, there will be a link. You can go in and just like Google Maps, you can zoom in, zoom out, and you can even go down to the individual street and corner. So in some places, despite our best efforts, there likely will be a line through a neighborhood because the population numbers will require it. And these kinds of tools will let you look and see exactly where those lines are going, so that when you come in to talk about the meetings, people will know exactly where the lines go. So just returning here at the end of the process, the criteria adopted, I think we're looking at January 13th, actually, is the meeting where we'll come back with the draft plans. We'll obviously get them out beforehand so that people can take a look at them and comment on them at that meeting. And then we're working with city staff on looking at community forums, more of an informal opportunity for the public to come in and have a discussion and give and take about what they like and dislike about each plan. And hopefully I've conveyed that public input is very important to this process. People can do all the normal things. They can write, call, email the city about it. But they can also do something that they can't normally do on a city issue, which is they can draw their own plan. I will take, if someone has a computer system and wants to do a detailed computer graphing, I will share all the data. It's now the city's data, so it's public data, and we're happy to give it to anyone that wants it. If they want to just sit around with their friends on a piece of paper or on a napkin and send that in, I'm happy to get that. I'll actually work with people. We often get this where people send in a map and its population's way out of balance. So we'll draw it, we'll run the numbers for them, and we'll fix it and say your numbers are way off. Taking your idea, this is how we balanced it with as little change as possible. Do you like that? And if so, it remains their proposal. So we're happy to work with people and if they want to sketch their own maps as well. And then, of course, so they can not only say, please vote yes and please vote no, they can say, fix it like this. And they can draw the plan themselves. And we actually like that even better. And that's the end of my presentation. So happy to answer any questions you have. Obviously, this is introduction. I'm sure that we'll get a lot more public comment. We always do when there are actual maps out as well.
One of the criteria we asked you to look at was to have the district going across all periods of the city, like from the very new to the old. Is that a doable do? Have you looked at that?
Well, I haven't drawn any maps yet. I wanted to have this meeting and get any public input that we got tonight before that. One of the interesting things about Riverbank's shape is you do have this unincorporated neck that comes up into the city. But one of the tricks of the contiguity rule is that it really ignores unincorporated land. It's a little weird to jump across, but that has been upheld as saying we could draw lines that go across. The contiguity rule really boils down to no district should divide another district. But if unincorporated land is dividing it, that's okay. So it may be a little funky. People may not like it. We'll see how the reaction is when we draw it. But yes, we can. I think we will be able to do that if we kind of jump across the unincorporated area there in the middle. But we'll see where it goes when we're actually drawing lines. That does bring up a good note, though, which is the American Community Survey has all kinds of data beyond just the basic racial data that is required for the Voting Rights Act. It has age of housing. It has language spoken at home. It has high school degrees versus college degrees and all that kind of stuff. So if anyone wants us to show data or wants to see a map of that kind of data, we're happy to provide it.
I have a question. I want to make sure I heard you correctly when you were saying that we can go through this whole process and it has to go out to the public to vote. So we can go through all this. We can spend the money for the consultation here that you're basically giving us. We can send it out to vote. And if the voters don't approve it, we're still up a creek without a paddle?
It would come back to us to make the final decision. And
Yeah.
You have to weigh the liabilities, who has the deepest pockets to come after us. If the voters refuse it, we're going to get sued because we have to adopt it. That's if it shows that is a viable option, and I'm sure it will. But then if we say, no, we're not going to accept it, then we're going to have people with very deep pockets from the Bay Area coming after us. So you take what is the best, what is it, the best of two evils?
It does, as a non-attorney, so this is not legal advice, what I often say is it really becomes a race to the courthouse. Well, someone relatively friendly who's only going to bill you a little bit get to the court first to sue you so you can settle and adopt the districts before someone who's going to bill you a lot gets to the courthouse to sue you so that you can settle and get the districts. So short of the plaintiff's attorneys being too busy with other jurisdictions, you're probably still going to end up switching, even if people vote no. One thing people often say is, isn't the law going to get cleaned up or changed, or this can't go on like this? I would note that there were 3 different bills to amend this law in the last session of the legislature, and all 3 made it even more extreme or even more even more confused in one way or another. There were no bills that would have clarified it or done anything to relieve any of the liability.
I understand all of that, and I understand what the mayor's talking about too. I guess what I was getting at is what, at that point in time, can you give us some scenario that it looks like if that does happen? When we say this is what we want, this is what we're recommending, we as a council want to see this happen, and if the voters don't prove that, do we have, as the council, the opportunity to say this is what we're putting in, or are we back at, I mean, I guess that's the piece I'm looking for. I understand all the other stuff, but the piece I'm looking for is what do we do at that point in time if that happens? And I know we're talking hypothetical.
Right.
So, but I just want to kind
I
of
mean,
get that in my head.
you could vote to put it back on the ballot and have the voters vote again, but the odds that you would not get sued faster than that you could do that are pretty slim. You'd probably be looking at a court settlement to impose the districts. The other thing to keep in mind is if you do this under your own power, the council starts the process like you have, it chooses a plan, and the voters vote it in. If the law should at some point be clarified, changed, or modified so that it's now clear that Riverbank doesn't have to have districts, you would then simply go through the same process of the council acting and putting on the ballot and the voters voting to change it. If you have a court assigning districts and imposing districts, well, then to go back, you're looking at going back to the court. And that would be, I suspect, a much more difficult process. So there's definitely something to be said, and it's one of the pluses a lot of the jurisdictions are looking at is, okay, this is the law as it is now. Let's do this under our own power, control the process ourselves, so that should something happen in the future to change the law or clarify, or as has happened in some jurisdictions, they end up with, an overwhelming Latino or whatever protected class group, and they decide they don't want districts anymore. And at that point, polarized voting won't make a difference. So there's lots of factors that could come down the road. By doing this under your own choice and by the vote of the voters, you keep control of your future process and don't have to go back to a judge and bring the plaintiffs back in to make any future changes.
At this point, I would like to ask the public, if you have, right here, if you have some inputs or comments, please make them now so he can bring some additional information away from him. Come on up and make a comment.
Excuse my haircut. Mr. Mayor and Board of Governors, ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you a little brief history about me. I'm 84 years old. I did about 14 years in the military. This is, I think, strictly out of line. Why should we divide this little town in little sections? What the hell's wrong with it now? Everything's prosperous. People are putting businesses in here. But to split this up in sections, do we have to have a governor for each section they were talking about? How about how many chief of polices do we have for all these sections? Does that sound stupid? This is the way I look at it. Why do we want to split all this up? I think we're doing great right now. I hope it makes sense what I said. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else want to say something, add to the report? Yes, come on up. And please state your name.
My name is Antonia Kinslow. I've been an employee for Stanislaus County Health Services Agency for 14 years as a health educator. I would like to buy a home someday, and I know that Riverbank is where a loan such as called a USDA because it's considered a rural area. But as we can see, home prices are going up. I don't think I'll ever be able to afford Crossroads neighborhood. But I'm hoping that there will be, with whatever revamping you have planned here, whether you section things off, I'm just hoping that perhaps there will be some more affordable housing in the plan. So that's my hope. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? From the council, any additional comments or questions? Sir, I want to thank you for your presentation and look forward to January 13th.
My pleasure. I'll see you then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it's after 6:30. You want to? Okay. I want to I thank all the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and the leaders and the parents. You can leave graciously or you can remain. It's up to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
My daughter's girl said you had
Good job with the flag salute.
I thought they kept their hats on there. Eddie told me to take it off. Eddie was.
It's nice to have them.
Thank you, Angie.
Room.
Quiet, super quiet now, huh?
Feel lonely over there.
It's no one on that side.
Oh, look at you, you've got to interrupt that whole side.
Item 1.3, wastewater treatment plant energy efficiency upgrade project update.
Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Michael Riddell, our Public Works Superintendent, will provide an overview of this project, which broke ground in August of 2014.
Evening. Yeah, that was a PowerPoint. A little technical difficulty.
You can speak and we can catch up with pictures later.
I can do that if you would like. You do have the pictures in front of you, but now we're going to rely on my memory, so we might be in trouble. So, evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. This is just going to be a quick update for the project that we are partnered with Snyder Electric for the energy efficiency project at the wastewater treatment plant. So, as you can see from the PowerPoint, there are a few pictures in there, and you can see some of the work that's currently going on. The first picture will show the blowers that will supply the diffused air. Second picture is a electrical run, conduit run coming out of the main panel. Third picture is a little bit more opened of the same blower run and some of the piping that's going in the ground that will supply the air actually into the ponds themselves. So you got a project overview there. It kind of gives you a list of, and it might be a little hard for you to see. Oh, we're good. So this will go a little bit better. Pictures. So here's the project overview, and you can kind of see by the bar graph where we're currently at on this project. There are certain aspects of it that are pretty close to complete, but that's basically the getting all the parts and pieces at the plant for the installation. So as you can see at this point in time, under the equipment material update, all equipment is now currently on site. The final canopy drawing has been submitted to Parsons Engineering for review. We've actually going to be covering those blowers. And one of the things that was brought to attention during this was to take a look at enclosing three sides of that to protect the blowers. And the schedule is also, the mechanical tasks are in progress as scheduled. One crew is currently working on the underground piping, as the picture shows, and the second crew is assembling the bioactive fusers and the PE pipe. And the electrical tasks are in progress as scheduled. So here are the project milestones. Basically, we're looking at a startup of the system by December 30th, the training by January 29th, and a final by February 28th. Now, keep in mind that this schedule may be a little fluid because we have run into one issue with a main breaker out there, and that they're currently looking at the engineering on that. So we might get pushed back by a little bit, but currently we're on schedule and hope to stay that way. I'd be happy to answer any questions, comments.
Your project milestones due dates are different. You have the final of February 20th, and there you had it February 28th.
Yeah, that was, I updated schedule as this was the last project update that was sent to me by Snyder, and then after a discussion, the milestone changed, and that was mainly due to that breaker.
They're slightly ahead of schedule from what was original, because we was due at the end of March, I believe it was.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because there was no rain delays, real rain delays.
That's correct. That's correct. So up to this point, we haven't had any delays in any type of construction due to weather. And hopefully it'll stay
With
that way.
the storm coming, do we anticipate any issues or problems?
At this point, no, because some of the work that they've got scheduled, they can still do. But typically, if it's out there raining, they're not going to be working. But depending on what they've got scheduled, I know Friday we have a shutdown scheduled for an electrical shutdown to do some work too, and we'll be able to do that rain or shine. But there, you know, as far as any type of trenching or anything like that, that's all weather dependent. So we shouldn't.
Do those ponds ever overflow?
No, ma'am. We don't allow that to occur. Yeah, it's a very bad thing. Basically what the Regional Water Quality Control Board does is we have to supply a map, and that map has a big black bold line drawn all the way around it. If we lose the water past that line, we've been in what's considered an off-site loss, and that's not a good thing. So we always make provisions to make sure that's not going to occur. And right now, with the amount of water we're treating and the capacity of that plant, it's not an issue for us.
Thank you. Item 1.4, presentation by the Stanislaus Business Alliance regarding the joint implementation of the countywide economic development plan and marketing strategy.
Yes, Mayor, members of the City Council, as you know, we have been increasing our work with the Alliance over the course of the last year, and in large part due to Dave White, who is the new Executive Director. And Mr. White's been before you earlier this year, and at this point he's going to provide an update on some of the progress being made since he's come to Stanislaus County, as well as looking to what we anticipate happening in 2015. So, Mr. White, appreciate you being here this evening.
Thank you. Happy holidays to all of you, Mayor, City Council members, to the public at large. It's an honor to be here today and to talk a little bit about the Alliance and our progress of working together with our partnership with the City of Riverbank. And I came on board as the new CEO in January this past year. And when I came on board, what was really important was to get around and really to learn from you what you expected out of us, out of our organization. And for those in the public who may not know about us, I'll just give you a brief synopsis. The Stanislaus Business Alliance is a public-private partnership that is funded both by public entities and private entities for the purpose of serving the economic development needs of Stanislaus County. And we were formed in 2002, created a merger with the what was called SCEDCO back then, the Stanislaus County Economic Development Corporation, and the Stanislaus County Workforce Investment Board. And so the Stanislaus County Workforce Investment Board is part of the Alliance, and so we govern and direct the work of our Workforce Center. Also, we brought on the Small Business Development Center, which is the SBDC is a national entity. It has local jurisdictions, but we have an SBDC, that Small Business Development Center, that serves 4 counties, including Stanislaus County. So our mission is to attract, it's all about jobs. It's to attract and retain jobs, living wage jobs to our county and to all the cities in our county. It's to support Stanislaus County businesses and helping them grow, helping them to overcome issues that might be hindering their growth, and to assist entrepreneurs and innovators to develop new companies. And the best way to describe economic development is really it's like a three-legged stool. You need to grow new companies, you need to cultivate existing companies, and you need to recruit companies. And that's what we do. We do all three of those. I'll get into that a little bit later. But we're organized in 5 divisions. We have an Administration and Strategic Development Division, which is a division of 3 people, including myself. And then we have a Business Development Division, which is all about economic development, about attracting new jobs, about serving local companies, and about helping to support our industry clusters. We have an Innovation Division, which is our Small Business Development Center. And that division is about serving the needs of small business, but we've given them an additional charge this year to direct and encourage, foster innovation culture in our county, helping entrepreneurs, helping business startups. We have a Marketing and Communications Division, which is all about helping to promote the good qualities of our county and each of our cities, not only internally to all of our stakeholders, but also externally to the outside world, to make sure that everybody knows about the great things that are happening in Stanislaus County and also in Riverbank. And then finally, workforce development. As I said before, we have the Workforce Center. So we're working with individuals in our county that are unemployed or underemployed, helping them find work, but we're also responding to the needs of employers. And I'll talk a little bit about our local industry program in a minute, but in order for us to be the most effective, we need to know what our employers need in terms of workforce, and we need to respond to that. So this just gives you a snapshot of what each of our divisions does. The Administration Division, we're all about the traditional operations, the financing, the human resources, the strategic direction, the team building. And I'm the leader of that division, but I have 2 people working with me, our COO, Susie Udy, and my assistant. We also have developed councils. One of the things I found when I came here was we had a very large board, 50 people. Now that's required by law because we are a semi-public entity with the workforce division, and so we're required by law to have certain representation of different stakeholders. But in order to get the board more engaged and more involved, and also our stakeholders, we've created councils. Some of these councils are in process, some of these councils have already been established. But these councils really direct the strategic development that we're doing in each of our divisions. We have a Marketing and Communications Council that is made up of experts in marketing and communication in our county, and they're all working collaboratively with us to direct a new marketing strategy for the county. We have a new Innovation Council. In fact, I just met with them today, and these are people in the innovation, people who are entrepreneurs in our county who are working with us to help foster a culture of innovation in our county, to help build and expedite the number of startup companies that we have. And the others, the Workforce Development Council, Government Affairs, Industry Advisory are in process. In our Business Development Division, we do a number of things. We do business recruitment. In fact, we've just launched a brand new campaign. We had a different name for it. The new name is called Start Here, Grow Here, Live Here. And it's all about building upon our strengths. The Start Here piece is about the Alliance and what we do. And so we need to communicate what our services are to our stakeholders. We'll have a brand new brochure that's coming out that will help us do that will help promote the organization. The Grow Here piece is, we're kind of feeding off our ag history and tradition, but the Grow Here piece will be a brochure and a campaign to reach out to those companies that we would like to recruit to our county. We're reaching out to Bay Area companies that are expanding and growing and needing more space and can't find it, or the cost of doing business in the Bay Area is prohibitive. So these are companies that are coming out, and we've had some companies that have already done that from the Bay Area that are actually in Riverbank, over in the industrial complex to be precise. So there are opportunities there. We also, our local industry program, one of the first things that we did this year is to launch a very effective and very vibrant local industry program using a survey tool where we go and meet with the employer. We have a survey tool that helps us to develop a relationship of trust with the employer, helps us to understand the direction that company is going, if they're going to be a high-growth company, helps us to understand what their issues are so that we can help overcome the issues. And I'll just give you a quick anecdote. We went into a company in Modesto. We found out that they were being targeted for relocation by the state of Utah. The state of Utah had a $2 million incentive package on the table for them to relocate, and we would have lost 150 high-quality jobs. So we got engaged, found out what their touch points are, what the deal points were, and we're now working with them. We've located a site in Modesto that looks like it's going to work for them, and we're able to retain that company here. And the company, by the way, is expanding, adding 100 new jobs. So not only did we retain the company, but we're helping to satisfy their expansion. And I can tell you, you can rest be assured that all of our companies are being targeted by economic development groups all around the country to relocate. I know because I was here. I wasn't in Stanislaus County. I went to Southern California when I was in Colorado. But they're here. And in fact, there's a consultant here in Stanislaus County that's been hired by some of these states and regions to identify companies for relocation. And that person lives right here in our county. So we need to be aware of that. We need to address that. We need to develop really good relationships with our companies so that we can preserve their presence here. We've managed the enterprise zone. Well, that's going away at the end of this year. But we've managed the enterprise zone and the enterprise zone vouchers. We are creating standards of excellence for every aspect of economic development. One standard of excellence that we're going to be releasing early in 2015 is a model for permitting, so that we're going to have a central model of permitting throughout the county that we will promote and market to the outside world to help companies know that we have a way for them to get their permits in an efficient, reasonable manner, which, time is money to companies. Economic Development Practitioners Group, we have a monthly meeting where economic development practitioners and your city staff, Jill Anderson, our staff members, come together from all over the county to talk about economic development. We talk about projects. We talk about how we can collaborate better. Economic development is a team sport. We all have to be engaged. We all have to have that pro-business attitude, and we have to convey that to the companies. And that's the kind of the culture we're trying to inculcate in this county. Retail attraction, we're supporting the cities on retail attraction. We've gone to the ICSC show in Las Vegas. We're working with the city on helping to attract more retailers to the city of Riverbank. We've already identified some that are planning to come to our county that we can look forward to some announcements here soon. Foreign direct investment and trade, business and economic research. We have a lot of programs, a lot of abilities that we can offer to companies to help them be even more effective and better businesses in the future. We are running a cluster economic development strategy. That is a strategy where we take the clusters, the industries that have already formed here, we build upon that strength, and then we encourage innovation, we encourage even more growth in those industries. Ag tech is an area of focus for us. So we want to take a company that in ag tech that maybe it's a middle market company, and we want to take that company, we want to help them grow. We want to help them find export markets. We want to help them find scalability in other markets throughout the United States. So these teams that we're forming are teams of experts in those industries that can help us grow, support, and communicate those industries. And so we can help establish a brand that others can know about. Innovation, support for startups, support. We have the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, locally has about 20 consultants of experts in all areas of business. We have experts on franchising. We have experts on marketing, on financial management. And these experts we can provide these consultants for free to companies that need help. Companies in your city that might be struggling, that could use a marketing consultant to help them get to the next level. So this is something we offer. The entrepreneurial training that we do. We just initiated this last year, the Stanislaus Innovation Challenge. This is a program where entrepreneurs can come in front of a panel of judges, pitch their product and their idea, and potentially receive a cash award at the end of the challenge. In fact, one of the 4 finalists is a company from Riverbank this year. In fact, tomorrow night is it's the final round of our challenge. And so the winner tomorrow night will receive $2,500 in cash and $2,500 in in-kind services. So we started this year. It's been a tremendous success. We're going to expand it next year. We're going to add the city of Riverbank as one of the host cities in 2015. So we're excited about that, and we hope that you all come, and it's really fun. You get to, even the audience gets to vote on the winners. And I don't know if you've seen the movie the show Shark Tank, but that's what it's like. Business workshops, veteran support. We're going to be doing a lot more in entrepreneurial development in the future. In fact, today we just had our meeting. We're going to be doing a number of meetups where entrepreneurs can come together for coffee. We're going to be doing some what's called it's a program that's called, just forgot the name of it, but it's at the universities. It's called the speed dialing operation, where you go into the university and students can come and they get 1 minute to pitch their idea in front of a panel of judges, and then they get support and help on how they can further improve their business idea. Marketing and communications, corporate branding and communications. So I mentioned the Start Here piece, which is coming out. This is going to be a brochure. And then the Work Here piece, which is all about recruiting new companies. And then the Live Here piece. One of the challenges we have, and that's been told to us by many companies in our communities, is that they have a hard time attracting talent to our county. And it's because people, they do a Google search on Modesto, and it's not pretty. They see a lot of negative. Well, we need to change that. We need to change the branding to be more positive, and so that we're going to be doing a lot more in that regard. Workforce development. We need to have a workforce development plan that is what we call a demand-driven workforce initiative. We can't, it's wonderful to focus on the unemployed, and we need to do that. These are people who need jobs. But it doesn't do anybody any good if the jobs that are out there, the people that we're working with, aren't qualified for those jobs. So we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to help people qualify for the jobs that are out there. And so if you go to a company like Gallo, or even a company here in Riverbank like Silicon Containers, you know what they tell you? They can't find maintenance mechanics. They can't find machine operators. And so we've got to make sure that we have programs in place that will help them find those type of people. So we're going to be doing a lot more in that regard, the Demand-Driven Workforce Initiative. So how are we doing? Business development. Our local industry program is up and running. We've interviewed 200 companies. These are companies that are all base employers. These are companies that are bringing new dollars into our county. They're really important because they drive the economy. We've already interviewed 200, and it's been really interesting, the response we've gotten. We're finding out about their attitude about city services. We're finding out about their attitude about workforce. You know what the number one issue is? The number one issue about community concern they have when it comes to city services? It's our transportation system, the condition of our local roads. Well, that's really good data. That's really good information we need if we're going to go pass a self-help tax in 2016. We've started our industry teams, our Jumpstart Stanislaus campaign, which is a number of workforce incentives. We've done that. We've established standards of excellence. We've established our new recruitment campaign. Our business development, when I came into this position, we had no metrics. I couldn't go back in history and tell you what the Alliance had done. We didn't have any of that. So one of the first things we did, and I don't mean any disrespect to my predecessors, but one of the first things we did is we established goals and metrics. Our goal for the year is 1,500 jobs that we influence in this county. Right now we're at 1208. I just learned today of another 400 job operation that we influenced and worked with, Central Valley Specialty Hospital, 400 new jobs in our county in this last year. So we've met our goal. We're over 1,500 for the year. We had a goal of 300 surveys. We're not quite going to get there. We're going to work our hardest. We've done 200. We're trying. We have 1 month to go. But out of the 200 surveys, we found 62 expansion projects. These are companies locally that said, we need to expand. And we could expand here, or we could expand in Utah or Arizona or wherever. So a lot of the opportunity we have is right here on our own doorstep. And we have 4 prospects that we're going to be hopefully announced in the next few months, 300, 400 new jobs. So the pipeline is getting filled. Workforce development. We had a goal of 50 on-the-job training opportunities through our Jumpstart campaign. We exceeded that by double because we got a lot of opportunity through our local industry program. We got leads from companies wanting to hire employees. 678 job placements, 329 job orders filled, 61 training scholarships, 238 GED enrollments. We surpassed all of our goals on our workforce side. Innovation results, the Innovation Challenge. We're working right now to develop a collaborative working space and an accelerator where entrepreneurs can come together, they can meet, they can have access to services, they can meet with mentors and other business services. 22 new business startups through our SBDC this past year. 160 jobs created or retained through the Employer Assistance Program. Now, we got to follow this. This is really important. Now, some people will say, the unemployment rate, they don't count all the people that left the workforce, and there's some controversy to that. But the bottom line is, the economy is improving. The last time we had an unemployment rate below 10% was back in 2007. So the unemployment rate is getting lower. What's really interesting, if you look at this graph, look at the peaks and valleys. We have a seasonal workforce in our county. Look back in 2012. Look at that valley when the winter months came. Look at how steep that valley was. But then you look at 2013, the valley's a lot less steep, right? Look at 2014. What that means is we're gaining more non-farm, non-ag type jobs in our county. The county is diversifying, which is a wonderful thing, and I expect that to continue. Survey results, done 200 surveys. Biggest workforce issue, finding skilled labor. That's nothing, that's not earth-shattering, but we've been able to determine what are the skills that we specifically need to focus on. Second biggest workforce issue, soft skill issues. Kid shows up for an interview, wearing a kind of clothing you wouldn't wear and talking on a cell phone. We got to educate these kids. And more than 60% of the companies surveyed plan to hire new staff next year. So what's going to happen to a company that it needs to hire people but can't find the workforce here? They're going to go somewhere else. So this is an opportunity, but it's also a threat. 60 expansion projects out of 200 surveys. Out of community services, the highest ranked services throughout the county, fire protection, ambulance, lowest ranked airline passenger and local roads. So this helps us to understand where we need to focus our effort. So the summary, the economy is improving, indicators are up, companies are expressing concern about lack of skilled workers. We also are seeing concern about our transportation system. We're also starting to see our industrial space filling up. And one of the things I want to work with the city of Riverbank on, I think there's an opportunity, is you have that beautiful industrial complex, but there's land behind that that's rail-served land. And if there's a way to turn that into a park, an industrial park, we should pursue that. Because I think there's an opportunity. There's 300 acres out there, and you guys, I'm sure that land could be very valuable, especially if we can get that special electric rate that they have at the industrial complex. So I think that's an opportunity. We're also looking at establishing a phantom permitting program. What that is you have an industrial park, and then you know what kind of projects are going to come in the door, so you get those projects and that footprint pre-permitted as far as you can, and then when the prospect lands, all they have to do is go through the final hurdles. That's how Turlock got the Blue Diamond facility. That's one of the reasons they got the Blue Diamond facility. So we're really excited. We're seeing really great things. We're excited about Riverbank. I think Riverbank, with your downtown, there's a lot of opportunity there. With the industrial complex, also with the theater, I think, and I talked to the mayor about this, I think that could turn into like an entertainment district in that area. I think there's opportunity there. And so maybe think about some other entertainment type uses that could come in there that we could start focusing on and building a little entertainment village, if you will. So with that, my program's over, and I have to tell you what's new for 2015. Start here, work here, live here, should be live here, I'm sorry. That's a typo. I love it here. Expansion of the Stanislaus Innovation Challenge with competition in Riverbank. If you know entrepreneurs, let them know now, because we're going to do it. We're committed to doing that here. Focus on our standards of excellence. Focus on identifying new development opportunities, that park that I told you about. Understanding, we have formed memoranda of understanding for each city. We want each city to know what they're getting for their money through the Alliance. And so we're establishing MOUs. We're working on one with the city of Riverbank. We're going to come back in January and bring it to the table. But you should know, you should hold us accountable for what we are doing to serve you. We're here to be your servant. Assistance in retail attraction, that's a big, important thing in Riverbank. I live in northeast Modesto. I spend probably 30% of all my retail sales in Riverbank. And my wife and I, we go up to Crossroads all the time. Marketing plan, workforce plan, and innovation blueprint. These are things that we're working on for the future. So with that, I'd like to entertain any questions. No questions.
One comment. Are we, I recall at one of our meetings we discussed several months ago, working more with the universities, colleges in our area to help us with keeping labor here also for certain jobs. Are we going to continue looking and going forward with that?
Well, so this demand-driven workforce initiative, part of the solution is to work with our service providers to make sure they're teaching the right things, make sure they're providing the right programs. And just another quick anecdote. I was at a meeting, and I gave a presentation like this at that meeting. I won't tell you the group, but somebody got in front of me, somebody made a presentation before me, and they were lauding this new Culinary Arts Academy, which is great. You know, everybody loves food. Everybody likes, but the point is, I looked at the audience, and there was a guy there from Gallo, and there was a guy there from Frito-Lay, and they were rolling their eyes like, how does that help us? And so we have to connect the dots, and we just haven't done that like we should, but we will. And so, but the educators have to be at the table.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the piece about the educator part, are you working with the schools also to prepare the students for skills that are needed for the future?
Yes. A couple of initiatives I didn't mention. I'm on the Stanislaus Partners in Education Board, so we have a really close connection there. Very close connection with SCOE. Tom Chagnon's on our board. Working with Pam Abel, working with all the different superintendents. I've already presented 3 times at their superintendent's meeting. So we're going to, one of the industry teams that we're creating, we haven't created it yet, is an education team that will be made up of educators. It's not like we're trying to bring more education to the county per se, but we want to make sure the educators are collaborating, communicating with our industry. That's one thing. The second thing, we're talking about, we haven't solidified this yet, but we're talking about getting all our high school seniors WorkKeys certified. WorkKeys is a national program that was started by ACT, which is American College Testing out of Iowa. And WorkKeys certification is a job certification that shows an employer that this individual is qualified in these levels. And so it's instructive for the student, and it's also very helpful to the employers. A lot of our big employers like Gallo, Silgan, and others use that as they screen through their applicants. And they actually come to us, and we do that WorkKeys certification. But we want to be a WorkKeys certified county, which is a great tool to attract other employers, but it's also a great tool for our local employers.
I really can appreciate your comments on soft skills when you talk about, I'm a high school teacher, I teach at Bayer High School, and I will probably be contacting you because I'm on another committee that's working on career readiness stuff at our site, and so I would be interested in talking to you about a few things, and we have a job fair and things that we're working on for February, so I'm Leanne, and I'll be giving you a call
Well,
or emailing
I have
you.
some business cards, so if you like my card, I know some of you have my card already, or you can just, Jill knows how to get a hold of me.
I think I received stuff from me too,
Yeah,
so
good.
email.
Good.
Thank
Anything
you
else?
for coming. I appreciate all your information.
Well, thank you. I really love Riverbank. Like I said, we're really close. I mean, I've ridden my bike up here before, and you need some more bike trails. I know the mayor's working on that. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. White. Public comment, finally. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter's jurisdiction of the City Council LRA Board. Individual comments will be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per person, and each person may speak once during this time. Time cannot be yielded to another person. Under state law, matters presented during public comment period cannot be discussed or acted upon. For record purposes, state your name and city of residence. Please make your comments directly to the City Council. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item 3. consists of item 3A, waive readings. Item 3B, approval of May 16th, 2014 Special City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority minutes. Item 3B1, approval of November 10th, 2014 Special City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority closed session meeting minutes. Contains only the recording of the public portion of the meeting. Item 3B2, approval of the November 10th, 2014 Special City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority minutes. Item 3B3, approval of November 25th, 2014 Special City Council minutes. Item 3B4, approval of November 25th, 2014 regular City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority minutes. I have two individuals, council members, that are not going to vote on.
3B1 and 3B2.
Okay,
Mine would be 3B1, 2, 3, and 4.
okay. So we have a quorum on all of them. Okay. Are there any comments, recommendations from the city council?
I have a question. On item 3B2, I had a clarification in the minutes, and I'm just wondering because I wasn't at that meeting, when it states Fire Chief Randall Bradley spoke in regards to the continued efforts in searching for the funding mechanism in the right location for a new fire station in Riverbank, did he mean a brand new one or an additional one? And because I wasn't
Additional
there.
brand new one. Does anyone from the public wish to address item 3? Seeing none, I bring this back to the council for a recommendation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve the consent calendar and a second.
Council Authority Member Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Item 4, unfinished business. Item 4.1, second reading by title only and adoption of ordinance number 2014-1014 of the City Council of the City of Riverbank, California, amending Title 11 Business Regulations by adding Chapter 124, Simulated Gambling Devices, to the Riverbank Code of Ordinance.
Mayor, Mayor, City Council, as you may recall, at the November 25th City Council meeting, this item was introduced for first reading. It is regulation of simulated gambling equipment, basically provides enhancements to state law that would apply to the City of Riverbank. At this time, we're asking for second reading and adoption. If you have any questions, myself or the city attorney would be happy to address them.
Do we have any questions of the city attorney or the city manager on item 4.1? Are there any comments or questions from the public on item 4.1? Seeing none, I bring that back to the city council for a recommendation.
I make a motion that we pass item 4.1.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve item 4.1 in a second.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campbell,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 4.2, second reading by title only and adoption of ordinance number 2014-015 of the City Council of the City of Riverbank, California, amending Title 9, General Regulations, Chapter 95, Streets and Sidewalks, Section 95.46, Fees of the City of Riverbank Code of Ordinances.
Like the just concluded item, this item was thoroughly reviewed at the November 25th City Council meeting, where it was introduced for first reading. At this time, we are presenting it for second reading and asking the City Council to adopt it for implementation. This particular item is in regards to how encroachment fees are adopted. It is not suggesting an increase or an adjustment to the fees. It is just an adjustment to the process. And our Director of Finance, Maricel Garcia, and myself, with the City Attorney, would be happy to address any questions.
Are there any questions from the City Council to the City Manager or to the Director of Finance? Is there any public comment or questions about item 4.2? Seeing none, I bring it back to the City Council for a recommendation.
I recommend that we approve item 4.2.
A second.
We have a motion to approve item 4.2 in a second.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campbell,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6, new business. Under item 6, 6.1, emergency repairs to the embankment at 7th Street Storm Drain Outfall Pipeline, which came to the attention of the city subsequent to the agenda being posted 72 hours before the regular city council meeting of December 9th, 2014, requires immediate action.
So this item, as the mayor just indicated, came to our attention yesterday. There is a need to authorize funding to repair the instability in the slope for the short term, so a longer term solution can be resolved. What has happened is the area in the neighborhood of the 7th Street outfall into the river, there's been a minor landslide, and the probably most likely caused by the recent rains. We would like to shore up that slope in anticipation of a storm later this week, and be able to then evaluate what a long-term solution would be. So the first point of business is to ask the City Council to consider adding this item to the agenda. And there does need to be a vote on adding this item to the agenda. And Mr. Hallinan, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, that's correct, and you gave the evidence to support the facts to make the two findings. So we just need a 4/5 vote to add that to the agenda.
I'll move that we add this item to the agenda.
I second it.
We have a motion to add item 6.1 to the agenda and a second.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campbell,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
So the next step in the process is to actually ask you to take action on approving the funding for this work. Mr. Michael Riddell, our Public Works Superintendent, will provide a brief staff report overviewing the issue and the need for funding.
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. As you can see in the staff report that was prepared for you, we do have an issue with this hillside. Basically, what we have is a line that is an old steel line that's in pretty poor condition that is eroded, and is actually letting the water drop out the bottom of it, which in turn is eroding the side of the hill. We did have a landslide in the 4 pictures that you can see there. You can see that per that walkway is actually starting to move on us. So what we would like to do with the funds provided tonight, if you so approve it, is to bring in a contractor tomorrow morning, and we will haul in rock to shore up that section to hold it in place with the impending storm. And then after we get through the storm, we can take a look at what we got, and we can come up with some type of engineering fix for this particular destabilization of that slope.
At this point, we're requesting authorization to spend up to $35,000 to deal with this initial work. If there are any complications that come up between now and the next City Council meeting or caused by any weather-related incidents over the course of December, because our next meeting is not until the 13th, we anticipate that that this should more than cover anything that comes up. We're hopeful that we will not need to spend the entire amount, but I wanted to make sure that there was sufficient authority to provide options in the event that we did have some unforeseen circumstances.
And with the amount that's being requested, I'm fairly certain that we can deal with what we have in front of us and still have some funds left over in case there's something that pops up in the interim between now and your next council meeting.
I just have a quick question on the funds being provided from the general fund reserve. What storm drain water comes from, not from the general fund, does it?
Yes, and initially, and to double check this with Maricela, it was hopeful that this might be partially funded by some of the special enterprise funds. However, stormwater is not an enterprise fund at this point, and it is a general funded activity.
We do have some areas of the city that have a storm drain districts, but this is not one of them.
I have a question. With these temporary repairs, how long do you think they'll last before we have to do the permanent?
That's going to be kind of a weather-related question depending on what we get at this point. But with how we're going to approach this and what we're going to use, I have actually used this material in the past to shore up a levee, so I've had some pretty good experience with it and have some really good results. So I'm pretty confident that once we get it placed and get it in on the side there, that we can hold things together until we actually can get in there and do what we need to do as far as a permanent fix.
Thank you.
Are we doing a survey of surrounding hillsides?
We have already taken a look at a couple of other areas down there that we'll know that we'll have to address them nowhere near to the extent that we do here, but we have recently taken a look at all of our outfalls. This is how this was actually found, because we had a consultant that we have on that's doing work on the low impact drainage for the LID standards, and they're going to each outfall to take a look at this one. And we have a couple that are in similar condition as far as the pipes are concerned, but don't have the issues with the erosion.
Any further comment, question?
When do you think that you'll start?
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, and it'll take all day?
Hopefully we can get this done, completed before it starts raining. It may take us, it'll take us all of Wednesday, maybe a long day, Wednesday, and a little bit of Thursday morning, depending on once we start getting the rock in place. Basically, the rock that we're using comes from Table Mountain, and it's actually a blasted granite, so it's angular. So it tends to be able to, you can put it in places where it won't go rolling down the hill because it's got good angles to it, and it tends to hold things together rather well. It'll be just a matter of how much we need to truck. Right now I got about 200 tons lying dead to come in tomorrow.
100 tons?
200 tons, yes.
And is this from like a drain?
It is a storm drain pipe. We have outfalls, the system, your DIs out on the roadway pick up the water that goes to a piping system, and some of our piping system actually dumps into the river. That's where the storm drain goes. And this particular outfall line is, nobody can really know what the age of it is. I know it's a steel pipe, and I know that what we're seeing, as you can see in the pictures, is in pretty poor condition. As you can see, it's actually has a tree growing through it. So, but that's not a bad thing, because I think that tree is actually helping us at this point.
No other comment? Is there any comment or questions from the public? Seeing none, I bring it back to the City Council for a recommendation on item 6.1 for the approval of the funds not to exceed $35,000 from the general fund reserves.
Make a motion that we approve item 6.1 regarding the funds of $35,000 from the general fund reserves for our repair.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve item 6.1 funding of the project, and we have a second.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campbell,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 7, staff comments, item 7.1.
Yes, Mayor, members of the City Council, I'll start off with Michael Riddell. As you know, the weather forecasters are telling us to prepare for a storm of significant proportions with gusts, thank you, of wind of up to 60 miles per hour. They're saying that this is a storm like something we've not seen in a number of years. And so we are encouraging everybody to take precautions in securing their lawn equipment. If there is a need for sandbags, we do have those. And then I'd like Mr. Riddell to comment a little bit more about how people can access sandbags and how they can contact the city during regular business hours and after hours over the course of the next few days.
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Again, to reiterate what the city managers has said, we always have kept sand available outside of the gate of the corporation lawn, as well as sandbags and shovel. Believe it or not, it stays there. And so people can come in and get what they need at that. We also keep approximately 300 sandbags palletized, so if we need to move them quickly, we can load them on truck and go. We have let most of the public know, and I can already attest to the fact that there has been several people in today that have already gotten sandbags. We have a few people that we know that they have issues in the areas that they live and are elderly and are not capable of doing this, so we have gone out and delivered sandbags to them. So we want the public to know that we're there. We have been prepping for this basically for about the last 10 days. Obviously, we're always prepping for storm anyway, and then we just go out and do a little bit more. Fortunately for us, with the rains that we've already received, have taken a lot of the leaves down, so they won't cause us as much concern. But what the public can do to help us along is if they see that the leaves are starting to build up out on that DI, grab a rake, go out there, pull the leaves up on the sidewalk or something away from that, give us a call, and then we can go out and do it. Because basically what we will start doing when it starts raining is we'll start running grades to make sure that everything's working. We've gone through and checked all of our lift stations, and then we're prepared for this. It'll be just a matter of how much rain we get.
I saw Grover out there today trying to do the final cleanups of a lot of the areas. I appreciated that.
Yeah, on the larger trees and that kind of stuff, and then some of the areas too. But yeah, like I said, we're prepared. We'll deal with what we get in front of us, and like we always have. It'll just become an all hands type thing if necessary.
And I would also like to add that, as in the last storm we had that was of significance, we'll be remaining in contact via text and phone, update the council on anything that of significance that happens, and then also to, if you are hearing from your constituents, to let me know so we can get that out there and make sure that we're doing the triage. I would also like to use this as an opportunity to point out for the public that when we talk about public safety, Public Works has an important role in public safety, and all of the work that's done throughout the year really comes to fruition at these times. The maintaining of the tree trimming, the cleaning out of the storm drain inlets, making sure that the preventative maintenance that we do, this is when it becomes really critical. And sometimes it's easy in June to think about tree trimming as not being critical, but it does become critical in December, because if our trees aren't trimmed properly, if we're not maintaining things, they are that subject to easily being limbs being lost, blocking roadways, hitting electrical lines, causing public safety issues. So I just like to point out, when we talk about public safety, this is one important component of that as well. I know the council's aware of that, but sometimes for those that might just be watching occasionally, that doesn't come to mind except for this when storms like this happen. So I'd like to thank Mr. Riddell and the Public Works crew, as well as the Parks and Recreation crew who supplements them on standby and in other emergencies that are out working throughout the year. So thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Thank you. And I will bring Sue up, not so much in terms of the work that she's doing in the parks and her crew, who was actually out over the weekend as well, that they've been working with Grover as well as on our own things, but actually to talk about an upcoming event.
Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to invite you and the community to the Old Time Christmas that we'll be having at the Plaza Wednesday night, December 17th, starting at 6 p.m. And what we wanted to do is just do something in December. We had all of our busy activities in October and November, but we want to enjoy the plaza, enjoy the decorations, the lit up tree now. So a lot of people will be coming out to watch some entertainment, which will be our Tot Time kids, Boy Scouts, the troop that was here tonight, Girl Scouts, Ballet Folklorico will be entertaining. We'll have some refreshments, some hot chocolate, and some Christmas carols just with the community. So it'll be an informal, just fun night that we're all looking forward to. So come on out. It's just a reminder.
One more holiday kind of reminder, and I think a lot of you are involved in this and may have more details to provide, but did want to let the community know that there are a lot of things going on to help members of our community that are less fortunate than we are, and each of you are involved in those. I'll just give a summary. Adopt a Grandparent. West America Bank is a contact the contact location for that, and they are accepting donations and people who might be willing to put together a care package for elderly people who might be in a nursing home. Riverbank Cares Food Drive, O'Brien's Market's very involved in that, and O'Brien's Market is also involved in the Adopt a Foster Care Child program. And then we also have Toys for Tots, where the contact member is Councilmember Darlene Barbara Martinez and her nonprofit Community Valley Resources. So there's a lot going on, and it just is a tribute to the heart of this community at this time of year. So as we get to Christmas, I was also asked to use this meeting as sort of a highlight for some things that we've been working on this year, and then some of the priorities for the first part of 2015. And in that, the mayor asked me just to give a brief update to the council on where things are at with the downtown specific plan. And I did want to let the council know that the Planning Commission did hear reports on the downtown specific plan earlier this year. We have been in active discussions with the owners of the cannery site in light of where they're revisiting potential opportunities for the site, and they have been providing a lot of comments on the plan as well. We anticipate bringing that back to the Planning Commission in February, and then following that up with for a formal hearing and asking the Planning Commission to recommend adoption to the City Council, and then bringing that to the City Council in March or April. So I do want to let you know it is in the works. It has not been forgotten. Recognize it's been a long process. We have had a lot of public input, particularly in light of adjusting today's economic realities. So with that, so in addition to the district elections, which we heard about earlier tonight, the other planning projects that we have to do, some to comply with state law, like the housing element, and to do complete street standards to make the way for future development, in addition to working with the development community for West Crossroads. And then there's ongoing discussions with property developers on the east side of town. They haven't gone to the formal process yet, but they've been negotiating and working with, negotiating might be the wrong phrase, reviewing the general plan requirements and what they need to do, and looking at what they need to do, as well as what options we might need to bring before the Planning Commission and the City Council to make a development feasible today. A lot of this started back in 2007, so 7-8 years has passed. Things have changed. We need to revisit that, but there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. But very positive things in 2015, and I look forward to seeing everything move forward at even at a faster pace in 2015 than we've seen. So looking forward to a very good year, and thank you to the council for a very good past year.
Thank you. Item 7.2, Councilmember Jones Cruz.
I just wanted to wish everyone happy holidays, and I hope that you have a great time over the next few weeks. Enjoy yourselves and your families. And I wanted to thank you for putting on a great parade. I know the weather was an issue, but please pass it on to the staff. I thought they did a fabulous job, and it was a pretty good turnout despite the weather, and thank goodness it held out for us. And as we heard earlier, we're getting ready for the storm, so I just kind of wanted to remind everyone to clean out their gutters and batten down the hatches. So thank you.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez.
I too want to say thank you for an excellent job on the parade, and happy holidays to all, and a happy new year, Merry Christmas, and so forth. And just, remind everybody to wrap up, be safe. Streets are going to be terrible with all the leaves on the ground, slippery with the rain and so forth. So please drive safely. Hope to see everyone in the new year.
Thank you. Welcome back, Councilmember Tucker.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm so happy to be back.
Thank you.
And that's a nice segue into what I was going to say. I'm very, very happy to be back with all of you. I'm not back at work yet. Hopefully that happens in January. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who reached out to me during the time that I have been out and ill and in the hospital and in the rehab facility. I received so many, thoughts, prayers, well wishes, cards, visits, in-person visits, even to the facility in San Jose, flowers, and I was so touched and moved by everyone's reaching out to me, and just want to thank everybody for that. And I certainly do believe in the power of prayer, because with everyone's prayers, I feel like I've made a pretty remarkable recovery, all things considered, very timely recovery. So I appreciate everyone. I wanted to thank and appreciate Norma and Jill and everyone tonight who did such a good job taking care of our little Cub Scout Pac-10 troop. My nephew's in the troop, and he was so proud of everything that was going on this evening, and I certainly appreciate all of your efforts. That was very, very nice. And I wanted to wish everybody happy holidays, especially our wonderful city staff. Take this time at the end of the year and before we go into 2015 just to thank and appreciate every single one of our fabulous city staff. You all do a remarkable job, and I couldn't appreciate you all more.
I hate it when you
Thank
read
you.
my notes. Vice Mayor?
I agree with everything that's pretty been said, so I won't repeat it. Likewise, be safe, have a happy holiday, safe holiday, enjoy your families in the community.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Jill, you and your staff for the tremendous work that you've done over this last year, and look forward to our quicker pace for next year, as you've promised, and that's now on.
At least he's consistent.
And welcome back, Councilmember Tucker. I'm sure glad that you're keeping us entertained. And just one other comment, as we go forward in the next year, I'd like us as a council to start looking at, by midterm review, some type of incentive to attract certain types of businesses downtown, that where we can publicly go out and say these incentives are actually in place to help businesses, entertainment, restaurants, whatever, to come on down and start our transformation to reflect the $17 million that was spent on the brick and mortars outside. Okay? With that, I'd like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and the rest of the holidays of what you celebrate. And with that, I'd like to go into closed session, consisting of item 8.1, conference with labor negotiators, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Agency Representative Jill Anderson, City Manager, Employee Organization, Riverbank Miscellaneous Employees, Riverbank Mid-Management and Bargaining Unit, Riverbank Executive Management. Item 8.2, conference with real property negotiators, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, property 2007 Morrell Avenue, APN 074-006-022, N 074-006-021. Agency negotiator, city manager. Property negotiator, Penny Riley and Melody Richardson. Under negotiation, price, term of payment, or both. Before I go into closed session, is there anyone from the public wishing to make comments on the closed session items 8.1 or 8.2? Seeing none, we now adjourn to closed session.
Maricela?
Report from closed session. Item 9.1, report from closed session on item 8.1, conference with labor negotiators. Direction has been provided to staff. Item 9.2, report from closed session on item 8.2, conference with real property negotiators. Direction has been provided to staff. With that, the meeting is adjourned.